And the Shadow Treasurer, Ted O'Brien, is reacting to today's interest rates decision in Brisbane. We can bring that to you now.
Today's decision by the RBA confirms that this government cannot manage the economy. It's tragic news for households just ahead of Christmas to think that there will be no relief and the year ahead will be even worse. The government promised Australians the opposite of what they are delivering. Everybody is being held back. Everybody is being left behind. The opposite of what Labor has promised. The Reserve Bank is not to be blamed for today's decision because it is a direct consequence of Jim Chalmers' management of the Australian economy. He has failed to stop his spending spree and he has failed to start growing the economic pie. The average Australian mortgage holder is paying $1,800 more in interest every single month compared to when the Coalition was in government. That won't change. In fact, next year it's likely to get worse. I think it's young Australians in particular who have been hit by Labor's management of the economy, and you see that through today's decision by the Reserve Bank. There are so many young Australians who cannot afford to buy a home. And every time they try to look at that online mortgage calculator, the numbers just do not add up. Today's decision will continue to see it very difficult to add up. In fact, next year it will be even more expensive for young Australians who want to enter the property market. Then you think of the young Australians who have recently entered the property market on the promise by this government that interest rates would come down. That's not the case. That's not the case because they continue to pay that additional $1,800 extra every single month. You also see that real wages have declined under this government. In other words, Australians are getting poorer. Real wages have dropped by over 2%. Now, when you think about it, prices have been soaring, real wages have been dropping. This is what has squeezed the everyday Australian household. It's why young Australians with families in particular are going to Christmas and they don't know if they can afford those additional presents for the kids. Some are cancelling their holidays. They're weighing up what they're going to do next year because according to all the forecasts, by this time next year, they will be poorer than they are today. Again, this is a direct consequence of the Labor government's poor economic management. It's not the job of the RBA to try and set the speed limit for the economy. That is the job of the Treasurer. And Jim Chalmers has now put a cap on Australia's speed limit. And this is a problem. Now, the RBA Governor has effectively said just this. Because of the poor productivity in this country, over 100 days since the Treasurer's economic roundtable, productivity continues to be a problem. There's been no substantive measures from that roundtable that is going to improve our productivity. But unless productivity improves, well, economic growth will only start triggering higher inflation. And this puts the economy in a bind. It is why we are stagnating as an economy. And who loses from this? Everyday Australians. Everyday Australians are feeling poorer today because they are. And today's decision indicates yet again that they are dealing with a government which promises one thing and delivers another. Any questions? Are we okay? Please.
Economists say that the RBA is concerned about a broad pickup to inflation in their statement they released today could mean more rate hikes even into next year. Is that a concern?
It is deeply concerning to think that the next move in rates will be up, not down. This will only make it harder for everyday Australian households.
Now, there's also, the board has said that they think it's appropriate that they remain cautious with keeping the cash rate on hold. Do you agree with this, or do you think that there needs to be more looking into how to sort of curb and manage inflation?
Oh, look, I'll never double guess the independence of the Reserve Bank. I understand the problem they face. I wouldn't be surprised if the Governor herself would love to have thought that interest rates could come down to help everyday Australians. But because of the state of the Australian economy, thanks to the Labor Party, that cannot happen. If anything, what the Reserve Bank needs is the government to stop its spending spree. Because the more money the government pours into the economy, the more it competes with households and with businesses. And when they do compete, prices of everything go up, inflation goes up, which is why you see headline inflation now at 3.8%, way above the 2.5% target. Again, the government has to stop that spending spree, because if it doesn't, the Reserve Bank cannot reduce interest rates. It's the government which is hurting the Australian people at Christmas time, when people should be happy, not hurting.
Well, given that the Treasurer yesterday announced that he was cutting those energy rebates, isn't that something that would effectively help curb inflation?
Well, there's no doubt that now that the government will be curbing the rebates for energy, the Australian people are just about to feel the full brunt of Labor's failed energy policy. Labor has spent $6.8 billion papering over their failed energy policy. Now they're about to feel the full brunt of Labor's policy. Energy prices have gone up by around 40%. It's the Australian people who are going to pay. Labor has spent now 3.5 years not dealing with the source of the problem, which is a failed energy policy, but papering over it by dealing with the symptom and looking at rebates only. You know, the Coalition has always supported families when they need relief and assistance. The issue with Labor is every time they have sought to provide assistance, they haven't found room in their budget elsewhere. They just keep spending money. It's come to the point now they've run out of money. Taxes are way too high and debt's about to hit $1 trillion. This is the $1 trillion treasurer, otherwise known as Jimflation.
Do you agree, though, that that decision was the right decision to make to help sort of curb inflation?
I think it was inevitable that at some point those relief payments had to come off because they were camouflaging the real problem at hand. Whether Labor has the fortitude to now deal with the source of the problem, energy policy, we'll wait and see. But indeed, households are hurting, but they are hurting as a direct consequence of poor government policy.
Just a quick question on MyEFO, just around the corner. Does the government need to sort of find sharper spending cuts to relieve inflation pressures in the economy? What would the opposition sort of suggest?
There's no doubt that spending is out of control by this government, and the priority has to be to stop the spending spree and to start growing the economic pie. They should be the two imperatives that you see addressed in MyEFO. Whether the government does, let's wait and see. The government always says one thing and does another, and that's the problem. We'll wait to see what it does, but number one, what we should see is the Treasurer announce rules for his budget. This Treasurer is the first Treasurer since Peter Costello not to have quantifiable rules to contain his spending, which is why he just keeps on spending. This government just keeps on spending. There are no rules. Announcing such rules in MyEFO would be a great start. Secondly, they need to drive further efficiency in their spending. And thirdly, they need to get rid of government waste. They are the three immediate actions they could take if they want to stop the spending spree. And then there's another host of activities to start growing the economic pie and really addressing productivity. So real wages can go up rather than down. So living standards can rise instead of falling. These should be the priorities of the government as it goes towards MyEFO. Thanks very much for your time.